Have you ever walked through the door of your own house and felt like you didn't belong there? Like you were trespassing in a space you pay for, protect, and pour your soul into, yet your presence feels more like an intrusion than a comfort. You're that man who wakes before the sun, works without complaints, and carries burdens silently, burdens that would crush most. But when it's time to sit down at the dinner table, there's no warmth, no connection. Just cold glances, shallow conversation, or worse, total silence. And inside, a question haunts you. Why am I doing all of this? Let's not sugarcoat it. Most modern marriages aren't partnerships anymore. They've turned into emotional labor camps for men. You were promised that loyalty, love, and hard work would earn you peace and affection. Instead, you've been reduced to a performance rating, judged by someone who no longer pours anything into you. This isn't about bitterness. It's about reality. Men today are cracking beneath the pressure of giving love that's never returned. They're tiptoeing in homes they financed, silencing their thoughts just to avoid conflict, sacrificing rest, purpose, hobbies, even identity, for a woman who now looks at them with expectations instead of love. And when they crumble, society mocks them, or worse, blames them. Be a man, they say, marriage is tough. But what if we finally told the truth? What if we admitted that many women today don't want life partners? They want emotional butlers, providers without opinions, cheerleaders without needs, submissive men, not sovereign ones. Christina Hoff. Summers once described this as the death of moral symmetry, a world where women's pain becomes a movement and men's suffering becomes a punchline, where female complaints become campaigns and male despair is treated like a flaw. In this twisted system, even your emotional pain becomes ammunition. If you show feelings, you're unstable. If you draw a boundary, you're abusive. If you leave, you're labeled the coward. So you stay and you bleed, in silence. But that voice in your head, the one whispering, "I deserve better," it's right. Because you're not built to be drained until empty. You're not just an emotional resource. You are a man. And if what you're calling marriage feels more like a job with no days off, no appreciation, and no emotional paycheck, you're not in a marriage. You're in a well-decorated cage. It often begins subtly. She once lit up when you walked in. Now she barely looks up. Her touch used to carry intention. Now she flinches. You tell yourself it's a phase, but deep down, you know something changed. She didn't just fall out of love. She lost respect. And here's the brutal reality. Once respect is gone, the relationship is a shell. What you're clinging to isn't love. It's routine, a contract, a photoshopped narrative for Instagram and family reunions. You didn't marry a teammate. You married a supervisor. She polices your tone, your emotions, your mood, and still blames you for everything that's wrong. Your masculinity, labeled toxic. Your silence, manipulative. Your vulnerability, weaponized. Your frustration, intimidating. You're not her man anymore. You're her managed project. She dictates when you speak, how you feel, what affection you've earned. She hides behind therapy buzzwords to gaslight you, calling you a narcissist for asserting a boundary, emotionally unavailable if you don't perform on cue. And when you resist, when you finally say no, she spins it. Now she's the victim and you're the monster. This is the new psychological warfare of modern relationships. You give everything, she gives conditions. You lead, she calls it controlling. You go quiet, she says you're distant. You speak, now you're overbearing. You can't win, only comply. While you're adjusting, compromising, and contorting to meet her shifting demands, she's making a checklist of every way you're still failing. Standards she doesn't hold herself to. And worse, she sees herself as the victim of the very imbalance she created. Because modern feminism didn't teach women how to love men. It taught them to manage men, tame them, shrink them, shame them, emotionally neuter them until they behave like trained pets, not wild men. But here's the secret. A woman can't desire the man she dominates. She may say she wants you to open up, but when you do, her eyes change. She sees weakness, not depth. She resents you, not for failing, but for folding. Because what she truly wants is a sovereign, not a servant. And as long as you hand over your masculinity like a bargaining chip, she will continue punishing you for surrendering it. You didn't lose her. You gave up your edge. And now she resents you for being soft. Let's stop lying. Marriage today isn't about mutual love. It's about male performance. A checklist you must constantly fulfill. Do the chores. Do the emotional work. Do as you're told. Or sleep on the couch. You're not a husband. You're a valet with a ring. You're not allowed to be blunt, tired, or masculine. You must be soft, agreeable, constantly evolving, endlessly apologizing, always holding space. But here's what nobody tells you. No woman desires the man she micromanages. And the more you open up, the more she loses respect. Because she didn't want you to break down. She wanted you to hold it all together. The tragedy? You've done everything right. You matured, you softened, you became emotionally intelligent. And yet she still pulls away. Because it was never about growth, it was about control. She gets to scream, and it's healing. You raise your voice, you're toxic. She withholds intimacy. That's healthy boundaries. You detach, you're manipulative. And when you finally say you've had enough, you're labeled the villain. You gave up, you're afraid of a strong woman, you just couldn't handle it. Nobody ever asks what it's like to live with someone who punishes you with sexless nights and silent treatments, while expecting unwavering loyalty and strength. You're not just paying bills, you're paying the price of being disrespected in your own house. And worst of all, you think this is normal. Because every man around you is going through the same thing. But no one talks about it. They drink. They disappear into work. They make jokes to survive, while silently dying. Marriage was never supposed to feel like this. Yes, relationships take effort. Yes, there are hard seasons. But when a man has to kill his dreams, silence his truth, and reshape his entire identity just to avoid conflict, that's not a partnership. That's a polite prison. And most men don't leave. They fade, slowly, quietly. They disappear not in rebellion but in surrender. They stop standing up, stop laughing, stop dreaming. This is how men die in marriage, not in one tragic moment, but in thousands of tiny, quiet betrayals. She used to admire his fire. Now she puts it out. She used to be moved by his ambition. Now she mocks it. And society claps. Look at how much he's grown, they say. But he didn't grow. He shrank. He folded himself to fit her script. And still, she isn't satisfied. She calls him emotionally unavailable, but she's the one who trained him to shut down. He wanted to build something sacred. She turned it into a performance. Now he's a character in a one-man play, and the script changes every scene. The laughter is hollow. The spark is gone. He walks through the door like a guest, not a king. Because love without respect is just emotional execution, and no one mourns the slow death of a husband. Society calls it maturity. We call it surrender. You gave everything, and now you're empty. She doesn't fear losing you, because you've made yourself too easy to keep. She didn't earn your devotion. You handed it over. Now it weighs her down. And if you're waiting for her to appreciate you, you'll die waiting. You don't need permission to reclaim your life. You don't need a fight to rise again. You just need one thing, a decision. A decision to stop explaining your pain to someone who benefits from ignoring it. A decision to stop shrinking to make her comfortable. A decision to choose yourself, even if it means walking alone. Because the truth is, you've already been alone, emotionally, spiritually, existentially. Start small. Speak, even if your voice trembles. Say no, even if it causes ripples. Remember who the hell you were before you became quiet. And if she leaves, let her. Because any woman who only loves your silence never loved you. She loved your submission. You weren't born to beg for affection. You were built to protect, build, and lead. Now stand. Because the door was never locked. You just forgot where it was. Walk through it. Not out of bitterness, but self-respect, because the man you miss, he's still there. He's been waiting. Now go get him.